Hello, I'm Emily Benson, and welcome to Healing Your Relationship with Your Career. This is a little mini course that I've had in the back of my head for a long time and finally started working on it. Got the slides about 90% done and found myself getting stuck. This is a challenging subject for me. This is a really meaningful topic, but I'm very much in the thick of some of this work, and I just hope that this training resonates with you. So, just a little bit about me. I have a human resources and recruiting background, which is sort of how I fell in love with the process of career development and the art of sort of putting yourself out there into a sort of a resume, cover letter, LinkedIn format, and how to get your best self across in interviews. I did a lot of my academic research on careers during grad school. I was very fascinated about how people end up in the careers that they end up choosing. Mine had felt somewhat random in some ways, so I became very fascinated with sort of that process of how people figure out what they want to do and what they're called to do. I've been a career coach for over 6 years, focusing first on college students and recent graduates, and then in the last 12 months, focusing primarily on professional women who are mid-career and feeling stuck, frustrated, missing something, not sure what they're looking for, but know that they're ready for some sort of change or up level in their career. Just a couple of comments from the group program that I run. I do both individual coaching and group coaching. I've coached dozens of women in the last year, and it's been one of the most fulfilling kinds of work I've ever done, next to mothering. It's really just an honor to be able to walk alongside women as they're making changes, and my clients inspire me every day. So, in this process of thinking about healing our relationship with our career, the idea here is that you may have gone through some trauma in your career at some point, and I'm going to share with you some of my traumas. Our career is so important for us, right? It provides us with the income that we need, the stability that we need. It provides us with a lot of the social structure that we crave in our lives as human beings. It provides us with a lot of meaning and purpose and the ability to help other people. But there's this underlying equation in capitalism, right? We've got profit equals revenue minus expenses. And just baked into this model is the notion that our salaries are an expense for organizations, right? And to raise profits, expenses need to be lowered as revenue goes up. So this means there's this fundamental tension built in, where our own value to an organization is constantly being questioned, right, as an expense. So, and of course, there's lots of very generous and benevolent business owners out there and organizations out there where employees are paid really well and have great salaries. But there underlying that, there is a notion that salaries need to be kept to a minimum. So this can be sort of damaging to us as we try to figure out our own value to an organization, because we might have to fight. Many people do have to fight to show our value and show that our salary is an expense that is highly worthwhile. And this can cause a lot of trauma for people, if we've been laid off at certain times because, our salary was too much of an expense, if we felt that we were not being recognized in the right way, if other people are making more than us and it feels unfair. There's just a lot of pain potentially built into this equation where we have to find our own value for ourselves and advocate for ourselves. So again, our bodies here, our bodies showing up to work are in that expense column. So, if you have some paper and pencil, this is a great time to kind of pull that out and brainstorm a little bit. How has this affected you? Right? Has it affected your personal and professional relationships in any way? Have you ever felt undervalued? Have you been laid off? Have you had to have your salary cut back in some way or bonuses cut back? Right? These can be very demoralizing experiences. And just as in other relationships where we've had some trauma and we have to do some healing work, then some healing work has to be done here, right? To understand what was that trauma that we experienced in the workplace and how can we sort of move through it. And the first step is just recognizing a particular trauma that you have and recognizing that it's not your fault, right? We have this underlying system here where human beings are in the expense column. So this is not an individual issue here. This is very much a structural issue. The other topic here that I want to just talk about is the idea of emotional labor. So emotional labor is when part of your job description is to express a particular emotion on the job. And that goes for 99.9% probably of all employees, where at some point we're expected to express a particular emotion that we may not be feeling on the inside, right? So obviously any customer service job, but also, acting professionally, right? That means that our feelings are also an expense or a liability, right? And we're expected to hide them at the workplace. And this is, studies have been shown, it is very exhausting to perform a large amount of emotional labor and not have breaks from it and not have any place where you can express authentic feelings in the workplace. So again, just thinking about how has this affected you, right? Do you do a lot of emotional labor in your job? How much does it drain you? And are you, really compensated fairly for it? Is it serving you well? Has it ever backfired? Right? These are big questions. Women tend to do a lot more emotional labor than men, and sometimes it doesn't serve us well to hide our true feelings, So hopefully you're getting some ideas here, and you can always come back and answer these questions more thoroughly later on. So I want to talk about some of the patterns that keep us stuck, right? As we grow in our career and expand into new roles, some of the patterns that served us well in the past, early in our career, hold us back later on. And keep us stuck from working through that trauma and kind of onward and upward in our career. So I'm going to talk about, some of the big ones that I've recognized in myself, first of all, and then in my clients as well. First is really, ignoring our bodies and our feelings. And that's such a sad picture of me. This is when I was having a miscarriage, actually. So, which has affected my work a couple of times in pretty big ways. So, ignoring the fact that we are a human body is something that is often expected of us in our workplace. Our body is expected to function well at all times. And if it doesn't, then we are an even greater expense to our employees. But the fact of the matter is, we all have complicated bodies that have health problems from time to time, and we all have complicated feelings that affect our work from time to time. And often in parts of our career, we kind of can push through just ignoring our physical and emotional needs, right? And we can put those aside. There's a big encouragement to put those aside when you walk in the door. Actually just read a academic paper about the effects of women crying at work, and it had a lot of tips for how to hide your crying and do it in private and apologize for it and things like that. And it was well, first of all, it was just a terrible paper. But that is a message that we get pretty often, that our bodies and our feelings are expenses that organizations can't afford. And so we have to do that work ourselves, really recognizing what our bodies need now in our life. It might be different from what we needed when we were younger, and our family might need us in a different way. So what is it right now that your body and your emotional needs are calling out for? And along with this is keeping secrets. I kept my miscarriage, my first one, secret at work. And I know a lot of people, keep grief secret, keep physical problems secret. And there are good reasons for that, of course, right? Because they are seen as expenses that employers don't want to pay, or we just feel like it's something private that we don't want to share. But it can be traumatic in the end to hide those things inside. So, again, reflect on this a little bit. In what ways have you been ignoring your body and your feelings? And what secrets have you kept that have potentially caused some trauma in your life? So this is a big one that I'm very guilty of, is waiting until I'm overly frustrated and kind of completely desperate to ask for help from coworkers or others, even family members. And I want to be independent. I want to be a profit center for my job, not an expense. And I don't want to be seen as needy. There's that kind of message too, right? That we shouldn't be needy at work. And this is so damaging in the end for both you and your coworkers and your organization. If you wait until you're completely burnout, angry, to finally ask for help, then you're coming at it from a place that is harder to fix, right? It's a tougher fix once you've gotten to the point of being completely burnout. So if you can start asking earlier, recognizing much earlier when you need help, when you need something new, when you need something taken off your plate, when you're uninspired. This not asking for what we need is a terrible habit that a lot of women have. And in the end, it leads many of us to just leave a job rather than try to fix something that seems unfixable by the time we finally ask. So that, again, that's not good for the organization either, to wait until you're ready to quit, until you start asking for what you need. And this, not setting healthy boundaries sort of fits into this category as well, right? We need to be able to say no. Just as we need to be able to ask for help, we also need to set the example of saying no and recognizing that we can only take on so much. and do it well. And also just being careful with, the people that we are allowing to really impact our day and impact how we go through our workplace. So thinking about really, asking for more than you have been and setting much healthier boundaries around what you're willing to do are really critical parts of this healing your relationship with your career. Again, super common, holding on to work that served us well, that it was great early in our career, right? But it's maybe no longer inspiring to us. It's not in our zone of genius. It's work that someone else could be doing really and would enjoy doing and would give them good experience, but we're not willing to let go of it for whatever reason, or we just don't see it as an option. But it's really critical for people and for organizations that we are allowing for some change in ourselves and allowing organizations to evolve and people to evolve in the organization. And this is, really all about control, right? Trying to control what we're doing, our piece of the puzzle in our organization, and not allowing things to evolve over time. Again, women, we tend to pay our dues longer than is necessary. This is a very common phrase. Entry-level employees, if we're new to an organization, we pay our dues. Women tend to kind of hold on to work that no longer serve them more so than men do. And again, this isn't helpful to us. It's not the best use of you, and the organization's not getting your best value. And it's not good for you either, and your own personal individual need to be inspired, to grow, to change, to, really serve the world in the way that's most meaningful to you. So classic career metaphor, right? Career is a ladder. You're climbing a career ladder. You're going straight up and you're trying to climb these rungs. These aren't this kind of model of a career is just not that common anymore. And it may be really limiting you in terms of thinking about your opportunities to find your own version of career success, your own version of a really meaningful work, right? So you've got to envision your career in a way that works for you. And that could be making, so-called lateral moves. It could be taking on completely different kinds of projects, moving into completely different roles. So, thinking creatively about how you can move through your career can really help you recover from some of the traumas that you might have experienced earlier on in your career, right? And accepting that you tried things that served you well at one point, but now you've gone in a different direction, right? And that doesn't mean that, that you took a wrong turn or anything like that. It just meant that, you're gathering strengths, new skills along the way and incorporating them in ways that maybe aren't perfectly clear when you first look at sort of the story of your career, but you can make sense of it in your head and recognize your evolution as a person and as a woman and as, someone who has a lot to give back to the world. That often comes from having a lot of different, really diverse experiences. Career growth and change is super healthy, right? And a healthy organization is not static, and neither are we, right? So, of course, when we get to that place where we feel burnt out and frustrated and stuck, it is a really tough place to be in. But, often that that the traumas that we've experienced earlier in our career, feelings of we made mistakes, we were judged, we were let go, we weren't compensated fairly, we had a toxic boss or toxic coworkers, those experiences, those damaging experiences hold us back from becoming the person that we're really meant to be. So sort of releasing that trauma, working through it, really understanding it and letting it go, recognizing it as a part of what's making you a stronger person that has even more to give to the world is so important. So how do we move forward, right? Excuse me. We've got to recognize that structure that I talked about, right? That we're operating in this world where our bodies and our emotions are in the expense column. Even as a business owner, we're often, want our bodies to be perfect so that we can, put in the best work into our organization. But recognizing, that this structure doesn't necessarily work very well for the complicated reality of being a human being. But, lean into that tension a little bit. Really be willing to put a value on this amazing body, an amazing, complicated feeling person that you're bringing into the workplace, right? Think about, how much you're adding because of how complicated you are. This means, doing some tough internal work. Figuring out what you're good at this point in your life because of the experiences you've had, and really what's most meaningful to you in this phase of your life. Recognizing that we go through cycles, we go through phases, and what was good for us 10 years ago is probably not good for us now. And that's going to shift again in another number of years, right? So we have to go inward a little bit. You want to find a mission that's larger than you, right? That's going to get you out of your head and into taking action. Because ultimately, that's what career meaning comes from. It comes from having a mission that's not just about you. It's, it could be about serving your family and doing what's right for them, helping your coworkers in particular ways, saving the environment, finding a sustainable mission. So we want something that's larger than you. And that, we don't figure that out overnight. It slowly becomes clear. And of course, it evolves again, depending on the phase of life that you're in. I really encourage you to find your own career metaphor that, throwing away that career as a ladder upward and instead finding something that works for you, whether it's planting a garden or, cooking a delicious meal. Mine, I sort of think of as a tree, where the trunk of the tree is sort of my core values, my core skills and strengths that I have. And I go out into different branches depending on who needs me and the phase of life that I'm in. So I bring those core values that are in my trunk out into the world in different ways. Right now it's, coaching professional women. I talked about this before. We have to ask for what we want, and we have to set those strong boundaries and say no. It's very hard, but we start to do it. Start small and work your way up. Women don't do it as often as men, and finding small things to ask for and saying no to things that aren't serving you is going to put you in such a better position in your career, and it'll allow for a lot more happiness in your life. You also want to, and this takes some bravery, and obviously, not doing this with people who are toxic or can't handle it, but having third level conversations at work. So a third level conversation is something that's a little deeper. First level is very, superficial. How's the weather? Did you catch the game last night? Just superficial chit chat. Second level is, it's exchanging facts. It's talking about knowledge, maybe talking about movies that you've seen, books that you care about, things like that. You're exchanging knowledge. Third level conversation is when you're getting into some emotional territory. And, the tears might happen here, right? So this is why that article, again, about, women apologizing for crying at work is so damaging, because a third level conversation, which might bring up some scary emotions, might cause a little bit of tears, are so important in an organization, that people can really share what they really care about and what's really driving them, so that you can work as a team to figure out how to best use you and your strengths and skills in the workplace, right? And how to, find the right way of working. I have a couple clients recently who've had some health challenges, and they had to dig in and have some third level conversations in order to get the office situation, the office setup that would work for them better given their particular health challenges. Now they can work more comfortably. The organization is getting, a much better work out of my client, and she's much happier. But this is hard, right? Having these conversations and being really willing to be real. So of course, what gets in the way of doing these things? Like I just said, they're hard. Our ego is going to try to protect us for sure from trying to do some of this hard stuff. Our ego doesn't want us to be vulnerable. Our ego doesn't want us to be judged, to make mistakes. Our ego doesn't want other people to think poorly of us. Our ego is trying to protect us. So it's going to really, tell us not to ask for things, not to dig in and have that third level conversation. A lot of fears are going to come up when you try to take those steps, and can very easily hold you back and keep you in that static position that is really not feeling good for you anymore. So what do you need to sort of work through that ego, work through that fear? First of all, new people, new ideas is so critical. Ever since Mark Granovetter, a famous sociologist, he wrote a lot about this 60 or 70 years ago. Our current network, our current close acquaintances, friends and family are not going to be the ones that get us unstuck and get us out of that static place. They have their own investment in who we are right now, and they don't have probably the right connections to introduce you to new people. So it's really critical that you are out there meeting new people and getting some new ideas, and so that you can sort of work through those fears that you're feeling and getting out of that feeling of stuck. You also have to be willing to take some actions first, before really knowing what you're doing. I know it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but when you're feeling really stuck and static in your career and a little bit traumatized about the idea of change, taking a small action before you actually know, okay, what step you want to take next, where you want to go, where are you going to find meaning, what do you really want to do? Just sitting and stewing in your head isn't going to get you unstuck. You've got to take some small actions. And that can be, again, asking for things that you've never asked for, setting some new healthy boundaries that you've never set before, talking to a new person, asking them some questions. They doesn't have to be big actions, but they are what is needed in order to get you unstuck. You also need accountability, encouragement, and support throughout this process because, again, it's hard. It's hard to get unstuck and it's hard to move through trauma that you've encountered. So having someone who, or a group that's going to hold you accountable, that's going to encourage you, that's going to commiserate when things didn't go the way you wanted it to go in a particular day is really important. This is not a process that you should do on your own. Mentors, support groups, so important during this phase. And if you're in a place where your frustration with feeling traumatized about your career, feeling stuck, feeling scared, if that frustration is finally feeling bigger than your fear of change, that's when it's time to go forward. It's time to make that leap, right? It's time to take those small actions to get you out of that feeling of being stuck. So, if you're just tired of not knowing what actions to take next and you're ready to get over some of those fears, some of those doubts, work through that trauma, then I do want to offer you my group and the work that I'm doing with my clients because it really does address all of this that I just talked about. It goes through introducing you to new people, new ideas, helping you figure out what actions to take first. And it gives you that accountability, encouragement, and support. My group program is called the Rising Career Academy, and it's going to give you a really clear plan, right, for taking those actions. Lots of accountability, don't let you off the hook, and the support that you need from me and from the fellow group members. It's a great place where we can share our stories, share times when things aren't going as well, and celebrate together when things are going really well. And a lot of this work is really about revamping your mindset, right? Building up some of that mental strength that's needed for change, working through the trauma of the past and finding a new strength that actually is sort of born out of that trauma. You're going to, in this group, create new understandings of your skills and strengths. And this is so important because you need to be able to articulate them when you're out there talking to people, right? So who are you right now? What are you really good at right now? What can you really offer the world? And what are the positions that are going to make the best use of you and really help you feel like you're making an impact? We set goals and intentions for the next phase of your career, mapping out short, long-term career plans. Of course, these are all evolvable, but getting sort of clear on where you want to go next is a really critical part of the program. Networking is huge, and a lot of us get really hung up here. I teach you ways to do it that feel easy, that feel graceful, so that you can get to know influential people and ultimately become that influential person yourself. So this gets you into new circles of people who are going to introduce you to those new ideas, the new resources that you need to get unstuck. Mindset, training and just career development skills. How do you apply for jobs so that employers can't ignore your resume? How do you ask for a promotion? How do we navigate some of those difficult conversations? And how about taking on some new leadership challenges at work so that you can really give your best self to your organization and get the most out of your current job? Learn how to rock any interview process, finalize your long-term career plans, at least as they are right now, and negotiate. Women don't tend to do this, but there's a lot of tricks and ways to approach it really authentically from sort of a win-win situation that we learn in the course. Because obviously getting meaning out of our work is really important, but the highest salary possible is also very important for your family's financial wealth and your financial wealth. And what you get paid should recognize your full value in the workplace. That's really important, and I'll teach you how to do that. We talk about even bigger career goals, right? And map them out and have this underlying personal mission that you can carry with you as you go forward, no matter what your current job is. So I have an 8-week group coaching package in the Rising Career Academy. And there's also a deluxe option that allows for a lot more individualized support from me. So there's a couple of ways to go about that. I want to offer you the package that works really well for you. We do our coaching in video calls and through Facebook groups. And then the deluxe package includes a lot of one-on-one support from me as well. So I have those options for you. And there's more details about them just linked below this video. Just a couple of quotes. I'm just so proud of the work that my clients are doing, and I'm so proud of the support that not only I give my clients, but the group gives my clients, right? There's lots of resources I give you all the information, but we also work together to improve our mindsets and to do some scary things. We talk about, what is that inner voice calling out to us, right? That we've probably pushed down and ignored because of trauma and because of, current situation. But it's time, when you want to get unstuck, we've got to listen to it, right? We've got to listen to it. Lauren actually just recently landed a job where she gets to work from home a lot, very flexible schedule, works really well for her and her current life needs. So again, the information about the group coaching program is linked below this video, or you can just go to this emilybensonphd.com/book and schedule a phone call with me, and we can talk about whether the group coaching is a good option for you or some individualized coaching, or I can just help you get unstuck in that strategy session with me. But I'd love to get to know you. It's my favorite thing to do is to talk to women about their careers, about their current blockages, about any past traumas that they want to work through in order to get unstuck and to feel more fulfilled. So please do book a call. Check out the details on the course. Plenty of time to sign up, and absolutely would love to get to know you and support you on your career journey.